Hey everybody, this is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel. Hey, and as promised, I've got the Mavic Mini and I have my Freewell all-day filter set. We're going to demonstrate what ND filters will do for you, as well as there's polarizers in here as well, and we're going to show what polarizers do. The way it works is with an ND filter, the point of it is to slow down your shutter speed so that you can achieve motion blur in your video. And the rule of thumb is you want your shutter speed to be twice what your frame rate is. So in this case, we're going to be shooting at 2.7K 30 frames per second. So we're going to aim for 1/60th of a second on our shutter speed. Now it's a fairly bright day today, so I'm going to try it with an ND16 and we'll go from there. So in the Freewell ND filter kit, they give you a total of 8 filters. And let me see if I can get them in here so that you guys can see them, and I'm going to step to the side. So without polarizer, you have an ND4, ND8, and ND16, and then this one right here is just a polarizer without an ND filter on it at all. And then along the bottom row here you have with polarizer an 8, a 16, a 32, and a 64, and those have not just the ND filter, but a polarizer on there as well. So we're going to demonstrate a couple of things. We're going to demonstrate how motion blur helps, and my wife Sarah has got her electric bicycle and she's going to help me with that. So what Sarah is going to do is ride back and forth on the street here, and we'll try first without a filter. We're just going to hover the drone and we're going to be shooting in 2.7K 30 frames per second, and we'll shoot without a filter and we'll see what that looks like, and then we'll put the filter on there. We'll apply that rule where we'll get to a 1/60th of a second because we're shooting at 30 frames per second. Yeah, 30 frames per second on the frame rate, and we'll set the shutter speed at a 1/60th of a second to achieve that rule that should show us some motion blur. So we'll try that out, and then after we're done with that, we'll put Sarah in my Dodge Durango, and the sun is reflecting off the window. We'll look at it first without a polarizer, and you won't be able to see inside the car, or barely, and then we'll put the polarizer in there, and it should negate that glare off the windshield where you can see right in. So let's quit messing around. Let's see if we can try this out. Okay, so we've got the drone fired up. We're looking good. I'm going to start recording now, and well, we are in 2.7K 30 frames per second, and we are in automatic mode. This is without a filter on the drone, and so we're going to start with that. And what we should see on this is no motion blur in the picture. It should show the bicycle riding by with a perfectly no blur at all. So I'm going to take off and we'll get set up here and get it started. Okay, so I'm going to have Sarah ride by. She's going to go one direction and then the other, and then we're going to try and get another angle on it as well, and we'll take a look at it. That was perfect. So now we're going to try it from a little different angle. So a little bit of an oblique angle that time, and then we're gonna get her coming back here, and let's see how that looks. So I had the drone in cinema mode there, so it was tough to keep up with her. Okay, so I have the drone on, and as you can see, I've got the shutter speed set at 1/60th of a second. And let me show you video, 2.7K, 30 frames per second. So 1/60th is actually double that frame rate. So that should give us the motion blur that we're looking for. So let me start recording, and let's take it off and let's get it in the air. Okay, Sarah's going to come by here, and we should see some motion blur. I'll drop that gimbal down just a little bit. So now she's going to come by the opposite direction. So we've got the shutter opened up far enough that we should get motion blur. So now I'm going to move the drone, and we're going to get it at a little bit of an oblique angle. Can you do that one more time? It's a little bit difficult to follow her because your yaw has to move faster the closer she is in front of me. There, I got a little better at it that time. So anyway, what we should have seen, and I won't know till I get back and look at the footage off the SD card, but we should see motion blur on that one. So what we did there was we shot the shutter speed at twice the frame rate. We were shooting at 30 frames per second, and we've got the shutter speed at ISO 100 set at 1/60th. So I'm anxious to look at that and see how we do. So now I'm going to land the drone, I'm going to put a polarizer on it, and we're going to see if we can do something about the glare coming off of the windows of my car. So just for the fun of it, I put the drone in a return to home, so I just want to see how close it lands. It's looking pretty darn close. I'm going to tilt the camera so that you can see the drone coming down. It's pretty damn close. And of course it picks up the camera automatically. It is easily, I'm going to say that's easily within a foot of where I took off from. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. So let me get the filter changed, and then we're going to demonstrate how a polarizer can reduce glare. Okay, so what we should be able to see here is with the polarizer on there, it should eliminate glare in the windshield of my car. So we should be able to see Sarah pretty clearly through the windshield. I'm going to move closer, and yeah, that seems to work. We can see Sarah sitting there with a nice smile on her face. Can you wave to the camera? Look at that, we got a nice wave. Okay, so now I'm going to back it off. We're going to take that filter off, and there should be glare, enough glare on that windshield that we can't see her as well. So let me land the drone, and we'll try that again. Okay, I'm going to take off again, and this is without any kind of filter on the drone at all. Okay, so let me get lined up here. What you should see here is a fair amount of glare on the windshield. I get lined up a little better. We'll drop it down a little bit. Let's bring the drone forward. So if you want to wave, Sarah, we'll see if we can see you. So again, that is with no filter, and there should be, it's hard for me to tell on FPV here, but there should be enough glare on that windshield that it's difficult to see her. Evidently I'd stepped far away enough from the mic that it didn't record very well, but what I'm doing here is the downward facing sensors on the drone, we're not letting it we're only letting it get so close to the hood of the car, and as I go forward, it automatically picks itself up and goes over the top of the car because of those downward sensors, which I thought was kind of cool. That was the drone. Of course, I almost flew into a tree then. Let's back that off. That was the drone itself picking itself up over the car. So that's kind of cool. We know those downward facing sensors work. Okay, so I'm gonna land the drone, and let's give it one more shot at a precision landing and see how it does, just for the fun of it, just because we feel like it. Okay, hitting return to home now. Maybe. And here it comes. It's orienting itself. I'm going to tilt the camera down here so you can see the landing spot. And here it comes. It's lining itself up. Again, I think it's going to be darn close. Well, maybe not as close as last time. Looks like it's going to be a few feet off. Let's pick that camera back up. Oh, that's cool. That's a great little sight there. So it says unsuitable for landing, so we're going to move it over here a little bit and then drop it down. Put it in landing mode. Okay, let me get everything shut down here and we'll do a quick conclusion. Alright, the DJI Mavic Mini and the Freewell all-day filter set. 8 filters in the case here. Nice little case, very well organized, but I do want to point something out to you. So the way these filters hook on to the Mini is the little, you'll see a little vent there, hopefully you can see that on the camera, on top of the camera of the Mavic Mini. These two hooks hook into that vent, and then the filter just slides over the front of the camera. I found that, and listen, I'm ham-fisted, but I found that to be very, very fiddly, and it was difficult for me to mess around with. And I just know that out in the field, like here, I brought a table for me to set things on and so forth. If you're out in the field and you don't have somebody else to hold things and mess around, I'm just telling you, it's going to be a little fiddly trying to hook these things on here and mess around with them. Now the other issue I had, and I haven't looked at the footage yet, but adjusting this polarizer. So there's a ring on the polarizer, that red ring, and I don't know if you can see the white dots that are on the ring there, but you turn that ring until you get a darker sky and reduced glare. I got to be honest with you, I don't know if I had it adjusted right or not, and furthermore, you're doing it with the drone on so that you can see through FPV, so you're manipulating the gimbal while the gimbal is on, and so it was difficult for me. It was difficult for me to see on FPV whether I had it adjusted correctly, and at the same time the gimbal, because the gimbal is on, the gimbal started shaking a few times, and I could physically restrain it and stop it. But I just know that that can't be good for the gimbal. You're physically manipulating the gimbal while it's energized, so I just don't think that's a good thing. Now, if somebody else knows a better way to adjust that, I've heard you can hold them up at the sky and twist it yourself and look for the dark part. I tried to do that. Again, I don't, you know, it was hard for me to tell. So we'll look at that footage that I got of the glare off of the window of the car, and we'll see how well that did. Just my observations, and let me tell you, I am not an expert cameraman by any stretch of the imagination, but I just wanted to get across to you what it is for a first-time user to use these filters. So we also then put the ND16 on there, and I got the perfect adjustment to 30 frames per second and the shutter speed at a 60th of a second. That is the golden rule that they tell you that you need to get that filter adjusted at. So I'm anxious to get that home and see if we get that motion blur of Sarah riding back and forth on the bicycle, and then check without a filter and see how that looked too. So yeah, so let me add, I was explaining to you about adjusting that filter. Now, when you're just putting a filter on and off, obviously you have the drone off, so the gimbal is not energized at that point. But once you get that polarizer on there, you do have to twist that ring to get it adjusted correctly, and that was just very, very difficult for me, and I'm not even sure I even got it right to begin with. So we'll look at the footage and we'll see how that is. But again, we'll look at see if we get the motion blur on the other footage with the ND16. But anyway, the Mavic Mini and the Freewell all-day filter kit. So I guess that's about it. Hey guys, I'm interrupting here because I just got back from trying out the Freewell all-day 8-pack filter set. And you know, when you're filming that, you're not sure if everything is working or not. But I'm happy to say that it did. So both the polarizer and the ND16 filter worked as advertised. So that's great news. So I'm going to show you a picture without the ND16 filter of Sarah on her bicycle. And now I'm going to show you a screenshot of using the ND16 filter. And you'll see that the ND16 filter definitely created motion blur there. So that's pretty cool. It does work. So like I said, you double the shutter speed to the frame rate. So we were shooting at 30 frames per second, and then I was filming at 1/60th of a second on the shutter speed. So now with regard to the polarizer, here is without the polarizer, and you can see that you cannot see through, or it's more difficult to see through the glare on the windshield of my car. And then now here is with the polarizer, and for sure you can definitely, there's less glare on the windshield and you can see better through the windshield. Now that said, I'm not sure that I even had that thing adjusted optimally, so you might be able to mess around with it and do even better than that. But I was gratified to see that everything worked as advertised. This is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel out, and if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Most of all, I really appreciate you looking at this video, and we absolutely will see you on the next one.